Go ahead, Doc. You can go ahead and record.
All right, I'm ready to go. Here we go. Well, good evening, those sweet people who are on here with us tonight. I'm going to begin a little bit differently than I usually do. I want to bring something to your attention, and I didn't bring the opening treatment into the room with me, and I'll pass on that for now. In some 25 years of being involved with the church and many other different groups and everything, I came across a lot of good books and a lot of good things that you wouldn't normally find unless you were looking to find them. So I'm going to recommend here 4 different books that I would suggest, if you care to really grow into teaching, you might wish to consider trying to locate them, because there's a good possibility some of them have been out of print a long time, but there are places where you can get books where people have books that are more than willing to send them to you for a price. But these are the ones I would recommend. The first one is called Working with the Law, L-A-W. The author is Raymond, R-A-Y-M-O-N-D, Hollywell, H-O-L-L-I-W-E-L-L. That book was put out in 2004. It was republished about 3 or 4 times, but it might no longer be available. I think it is, because it's a very popular book. It's a very different book. Not only does it teach what we've been teaching, but in order to help people find and locate things that they might want to continue to look on and go back to. Every 10 sentences, there's a mark in the book. It's numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So anytime you want to find a section of it, you just go to number, page, and it's not page numbers, it's numbered script, manuscript. Go to page 210 and you will go right to that spot that you want to look at. But that's why I'm recommending it. Now, for the last couple of weeks, I've been telling you about this amazing epic poem that was written by the Holmes brothers, and I couldn't remember the name of it. The authors are Ernest and Fenwick, F-E-N-W-I-C-K, Holmes. The book is called The Voice Celestial. It was written in 1960. I'm quite sure that's available, because it's extremely popular among the crowd that like poetry. Anybody who likes poetry will go absolutely berserk once you get a hold of this and you read it. It's a dialogue between one human being with God, and they're going back and forth. He has questions and God gives him answers. It's amazing. I don't know how anybody could write a book over 200 pages in beautiful, beautiful poetry. I was reading and still read that book at least once every 4 months. I start it again. It takes me about 2 to 3 weeks to read it, because it is poetry. The other book, we are mentioning the Science of Mind textbook, but this is the book that takes everything that's in the textbook, and it's by Ernest Holmes, but it's called Living the Science of Mind, published 1991. I'm sure that's available, and I'll tell you where that I think you can get the Holmes books when I get done. This next book, I am not sure you'll be able to find it, but if you can, you must find this book. The author was a newspaper man. His name was Jess, J-E-S-S, Stern, S-T-E-R-N. He called it The Power of Alpha, A-L-P-H-A, Thinking, T-H-I-N-K-I-N-G. It was published in 1977, and it was all the rage for 2 years. When you get this book, if you do get it, and you read it, you're going to do the same thing I did when I first read it. I said, what they're saying in here is absolutely impossible. People cannot do this. But that's what Jess wrote about. He said when he heard about this, he didn't believe it either. So he went to the people who were teaching it, and that was the Meditation Institute. And I believe it was in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, somewhere outside the city. So I get, like usual, when I see something like that, I called him and said, what can we do to do this together? I would like to see it at work, because it seems almost impossible. Well, they said, we got about 5 people, 6 people in your area that very much want to take it. You get us 10 people, 4 more people, I'll get you them. You get a house or someplace to stay with all of them, and I'll come in. And I'll do it for $300 a person and my expenses to fly me in and fly me back in a hotel. Said, find out if they're going to do it. He ultimately called me about a week later. He said, 5 of my 6 are ready to come. You got 5 more? Well, I had Phyllis's son, Phyllis. I had me. I had my son, Eddie, who was very interested to find out about it. And my very best friend in my whole life, my friend Anthony Marola, and we all joined together in Phyllis's house for one weekend. Started Friday night, all day Saturday, and I mean all day, almost 12 hours, all day Sunday from 8 in the morning to 8 at night. The only rule was no phones, no calls, no contact with the outside world. And they had to stay in that room with us all together. So the only people that would be available to him and to us are the ones that were in the room, which we agreed to. We then proceeded to take everything that was in that book and demonstrate it, and clearly demonstrate that there wasn't anything in that book that seemed impossible that couldn't be done, because we did it. But it's very hard to explain unless you get a copy of the book. So if any of you go looking for it and actually find it and get it, read it, and then let me know that you got it, and then we will discuss it over the screen here. And I will bring it to the attention of anyone in the group who cares to listen to it, because I can't make you all get in one room for a weekend. I can give you it over 7 sessions and ask you not to discuss it outside of yourself and not even your closest people, because people that have doubts will want to go and talk to you and say how and why and when, and they'll break you down and you might not be able to accomplish what you're being asked to do. So I'm leaving that one with you, but those are the ones I'm telling you I would like to see you get. Just Stern, because when you read it, you say impossible. I tell you it's possible because we did it. That's all I'm going to say. And the poetry, if you love poetry, anything Ernest Holmes you can get from the Center of Spiritual Living. And before we hang up in the session tonight, I'll get you the address, and you can request it through them. All right. Now, the next 4 or 5 weeks, I'm going to be using a book called The Mystic Path to Cosmic Power. That book is written by Vernon Howard, and it goes back to 1968. It's powerful, it's incredible, and it starts as follows. People don't live the way they do because they like it. They live as they do because they don't know what else to do. This book will awaken the first faint hint that there is another way to live. It exists, I know it does. Anyone who wants this new life badly enough will find it. And then everything alters dramatically. They call the first chapter in the book The Greatest Secret on Earth. And he started like this. What is the cause and cure of a man or a woman's problems while they're on this earth? Think about that. The reason I ask you to do that, then I can turn pages. There is a way out. That's the next subtitle within the chapter of The Greatest Secret on Earth. That's the name of the chapter. You already were told that when we were discussing Ernest Holmes in the textbook. And we said the greatest secret on earth is man realized he had a mind. And that with that mind, he could begin to control his environment. Well, he puts it this way. There is a way out. You have to find your true identity. Every man and woman are king and queen through conscious awareness of our own true identity. You need not to try to be anything. You only need to realize who you really are, a king and queen by your birthright. By contacting a higher power, you can live an entirely new life, both in the here and now, and even in the there and hereafter. This is, in my opinion, the greatest secret on earth. What I'm going to do is I'm going to read some stuff, and then I'm going to talk about it. It says there's another way to live. I assure you that this is no mere opinion of mine. I know it. I also know that my telling of this can encourage, but will never convince you. But you can, by taking careful heed to the principles, and then convince yourself through actual experience. No person and no circumstance on earth can prevent you from experiencing the new life. Not even you can prevent it if you're willing to change who and what you are and have been. There is one requirement for the man or woman who wants to possess this secret. It's not strength, nor confidence, nor youthfulness, nor anything else like that. There is only one requirement. You, the seeker, must be willing to listen and learn something new. With that, all things are possible. So the first challenge is, as we proceed to go through this particular volume, is to say what you said when I first joined you some 5-6 months ago and invited you into a new way of thinking, which it wasn't actually a new way of thinking. You've been doing it all your life, but you didn't know that it was controlled by various spiritual laws. And once we went over the laws and began to realize what they were, we probably said what everybody ever said who came into the teaching. Well, I always knew that. Well, you may have known it, but we weren't using it because we didn't understand it. So this good man says this: one thing I ask of you, don't try to be spiritual. That is only a word in a dictionary. Just make it your goal to become a normally functioning individual and let the principles shape you according to your own real nature of a simple, decent, honest, unafraid human being. Just that simple. He called it mysticism because the definition is it's an advanced state of inner enlightenment, a state of generally satisfying success. Is the magic word, an intuitive grasp of truth above and beyond any intellectual reasoning. That is what I call genuine mysticism. The mystic path is bright with cheer. The message of mysticism at that time was followed by William James, probably the giant among all American psychologists. Harmonious religion and mysticism. And he put it this way: personal religious experience has its roots and center in mystical states of consciousness. So I think I shall at least succeed in convincing you of the reality, the permanent importance of that function. Every religion had enlightened men and women. One such mystic was Sri Ramakrishna, experienced by living in turn with various religions. He was a Christian, and then he was a Hindu, and then he was a Buddhist, and then he discovered the same truth in all of them. And he said, the message is simple, and I can assure you this, because that's where I am right now. He says, happiness is yours, right here and right now. The painful states of anxiety and loneliness are abolished permanently with understanding of spiritual principle. Financial affairs are no longer financial problems. You are at ease with yourself. You're not at the mercy of unfulfilled cravings. Confusion is replaced with clarity. There's a reflecting answer to every tormenting question because you possess a true self. Something can be done about every unhappy condition. While living in the world, you can be inwardly detached from its sorrows to live with personal peace and sanity. Now, you've already learned a good bit of that because over those 10 weeks we were together, we gave you multiples of steps and ways to go and begin to make the changes that would bring and produce in your life changes and opportunities beyond anything that you ever thought was possible. And all that we asked at that time and all that we've done in 10 weeks is clarify the use of principles that have always been our own. They are scientific, they are intellectual, but they are also intuitive, deeply ingrained in each and every one of us from the date we were born. And we didn't know that because when we were little kids, little pikes there, we were listening to people who didn't know about it and began to teach us what they knew according to what it did for them in their life. So little by little, we released all our intuitive senses and our spiritual knowledge and became human, thoroughly human, and we developed what happens with humanity. We develop human problems. One of the things I suggested, and I think it's going to come up in this chapter, is just change what you called things. Said no good. I thought this was an original when I've been talking to you, but apparently some 20 years ago, this is where I got some of it. No labels, no good, no bad, because if there's good, there's going to be bad. No mistakes, because if you make a mistake, you're going to keep making mistakes, but there are no mistakes. There are life experiences jumping on you to try and get you to open your heart and mind and realize these mistakes are opportunities for you to grow and extend yourself far and above and beyond everything you did before. So they're just simply no mistakes. Flipping a couple pages, folks. Okay, here we go for the next thing. A tremendous power works for the man and woman who meets a challenging problem with one honest admission. I don't know the answer. By turning your helplessness over to the power that is instinctively yours, it enables it then to reveal the answer. How does it reveal the answer? Well, we mentioned that along the way too. It's called be quiet and listen. And when you get the suggestion from the deepest intuitive sense that is yours, do something with it. He says here, the first reason for our slavery is ignorance, but mostly ignorance of ourselves. Without that self-knowledge, without understanding the working and function of your own machine, you'll never be free. You will not govern yourself. You'll always be a slave and a plaything of forces that act on you. That's why any and all ancient teachings, the first demand at the beginning of the way to liberation was, and this is, by the way, the name of a book, which I also have, and now is in the possession of wonderful Michael Chambers. It was called Physician, Heal Thyself. And I can't remember who wrote it. Awesome book, Michael. It's in there someplace. Read as if you have no personal attitudes. Be open and receptive to anything. This will free the mind of conditioned thinking and allow you to absorb new and beautiful and wonderful things. The only thing it will cost you is be willing to change. This is what they promise if you start doing this, okay? You can find the answer to every problem and every confusion. Now, I don't like the word problem because there are no problems, but there is a lot of confusion. There are life situations that as a result of the choices we made, and we know why that happens, because I am the only person who will have a relationship all my life, and therefore I choose. You made the choices. The results are the confusion. Where do I go to get rid of the confusion? I become silent. I practice meditation. I listen. I hear. I trust. And I work it. He says this too. It is absolutely essential. We do not unconsciously assume that we already know all the answers. If I learned 80 things in 86 years, I can go and swear that the famous saying, the older I get and the more I know I don't know. That's a very powerful statement, but you have to admit to it. You don't know everything. The reason we don't know everything is we're still living a life. We're still making choices. So we have no idea in truth what the result of our choices will be. We know what we would like them to be, but they don't always enter that way. That's why we started saying, I made a mistake. Oh, I have a problem. It's an unwillingness to admit you created whatever the situation is at that particular time. Last but not least, this is what he states. Welcome. Start right exactly where you are right now. Like everything we learned over 10 or 12 weeks, it all depends on one person, because you are the only person that you will have a relationship with all your life, and you make choices, and the choices always produce results, but they don't always produce the results that you care to have. Then here comes the test. Look them over. Ask yourself, what do I do with what I received while in the intuitive, and I'll use the term because Jess Stern used it, in the alpha thinking stage, which is one stage slightly below normal consciousness. And then start right where you are. The second chapter is wake up to the world of wonder. We must not assume that we are spiritually awake. This is the most important thing in this entire book. Awakening is the most different event a human being can ever experience. To awaken means to admit to yourself that you don't know everything. But life is meaningful only when we are conscious, really conscious of the truth, of reality, of the things as they really are. And this is something I've been talking about all my life. Every day when you wake up, you're born again. You've heard a born again Christian, you've heard the term used frequently. But every day that you awaken, you are born again. You're provided with a brand new manuscript, a wide open page, and it is yours to fill as you choose to. So it says, we must wake up to be born again. How do we proceed to do that? Well, here we go, overlapping again. I suggested throughout our weeks that when you go to bed at night, before you do, you look your day over. Well, he says self-observation, is the act of watching everything that goes on, both within yourself and outside. You do nothing but watch, just as if it was happening to someone else. You never personalize it. You do not react or form an opinion about anything you observe, whether it's a newspaper headline or an inner feeling. You judge nothing as good or bad, pleasurable or painful, favorable or unfavorable. You simply watch it, just as if you had no personal connection with whatever you are observing. It means passive detachment. You do not try to change the things you see in yourself You interfere with nothing, but without attitude and without comment, you look it over. Okay? It is not thinking about yourself, it is thinking about the thoughts that you had on that particular day and how perhaps you can change them. George Goodriff, very famous. Self-observation brings man to the realization of the necessity for self-change. In observing himself, a man and woman notice that self-observation itself brings out certain changes in his inner processes. He begins to understand that self-observation is an instrument of self-change and the beginning of awakening. By observing himself or herself, he throws, as it were, a ray of light onto the inner processes which have hitherto worked in complete darkness. Under the influence of this light, the process then helps you begin to change. Actually, you're not forcing change, but by recognizing it as something that you need to do, you simply begin the process, like you said, begin now. Ask yourself, how did this come? What can I do about it? What can I do to go and change the process? How do I make a change? Because again, I remind you, I am the only person I will have. Oh, goodness me, isn't it fine after all these years? The only person I will live with. My own person. I am moving it around because for a moment it has disappeared. The things that this new life way of thinking can present to you is a beautiful new way to find health. And another thing it'll do for you, and this is all promised, if you change, and if you do it more intuitively in a different state of mind, which is the whole process of meditation, then you will also be free from nagging trivialities. I will tell you, my dear friends, this is one I wish I had truly understood and learned very, very, very long ago. I was always involved in all my nonsense. And when I thought I was right, I became like everybody today. I'm right, everybody else is wrong. And I wouldn't change. And I argued, and I became angry. And the angrier I became, the more impossible I became to live with. And today, when I look back, I realize it was all just so much garbage. It had really no meaning at all. It was ego trying to satisfy me. And it did only one thing to me. It kept me from living a very rich, very full, very enjoyable life. Another thing you promise once you change and you start seeing how it works because you're working it, you'll have a lasting, wonderful elation, E-L-A-T-I-O-N. And you begin to know you're finally on the right path for yourself. Loneliness vanishes. There's a new kind of self-acceptance. Much greater wisdom in human relations, particularly the one that's most important, the one you are having with yourself. You're beginning to see that the mysteries of life are truly solved. Because as you use spiritual law and as you begin to absorb it and act from it with a clarity that it works, automatically it will help you discover what you always knew but never practiced. That spiritual laws are mystical, but used and used properly with a full understanding, they will alter and change you dramatically. Another amazing part of this, you will find out that you'll find yourself being very safe because you can see and hear more clearly. You will have daily inspiration. Oh, Eddie, my son is trying to contact me right now, and I have no time to contact him back. All my children are flying in this weekend, and he just sent me an email with the date and the time, and he wants me to go and say, I got it. Okay, never again are you going to be self-defeating, because there'll be no such thing as defeat. There'll be a complete understanding that you have an instrument, your human mind, your human body, that has the ability to go and tune in to the intuitive sense that you had from the first day you were born, and that you have given up as a result of well-intentioned teaching, well-intentioned people. But they taught you the things that worked for them, but it doesn't mean it's going to work for you. So there's nothing self-defeating about it when you're willing to change and go and acknowledge, I don't know it all, because there's nothing to be defeated. There's just change to be accepted and then to process it. The last step when he puts in here is that you will find yourself becoming so fulfilled and so filled with the joy of life that you will be amazed. I have shared some comments with several people who have listened to this program as we've been doing it. And one such person turned around and said, I tried doing treatment work, and I treated very strongly the way I thought we were told to treat. And what I wanted happened so quickly, I thought it was a miracle. Now that's one of you, one of us, that only had 10 weeks, 12 weeks of exposure to these teachings. And that individual was so excited that it worked. I won't tell you anything that hasn't worked for me. I promise you that. Okay. Carl Jung, who bridged the gap between Eastern mysticism and Western psychology, put it this way. To this question, there's a positive answer only when the individual is willing to fulfill demands of rigorous self-examination and self-knowledge. If he follows through this intention, he or she will not only discover some important truths about themselves, but will have gained an incredible psychological advantage. They will have set their hand, as if it were, to the declaration of his own human dignity and taken the first step toward the foundations of improved and changed consciousness. Self-knowledge is a really simple thing. It's getting to see how we operate, just like we would learn how an automobile works. That places on control of our human machine. The beauty of it, once you get to this place where you understand that you have everything you need to make proper decisions, you're no longer beginning to even doubt yourself. Everything that created doubt was put in our mind by ourselves, years of teaching, often very wrong things. Right now, you can see this actively in our current case where 74 million people, well, let's put it in a new context, 25 or 35 million people still have refused to take the vaccinations because it's their right and their freedom not to go and be told what to do. So we got 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 people a day in this country still dying of a disease that they don't have to die from. But people with the knowledge you now have won't make that decision because you realize you were provided with that answer by some very intelligent human beings who came up with the answer. When you do this, and you do these teachings, all false notions disappear. And truthfully, nothing can hurt us. I wish I could tell you I'm a one-eyed driver. I've been with one eye since I'm 14 years old. I have the left eye only. I have astigmatism in the right eye. I can see only the outside edges of that eye. I am incredibly cautious. My mirrors and my attention to the road have kept me alive many times. I've missed multiples of accidents that perhaps I could have been in, but I told you, every day I go out, I ring the bell. And I say to it, thank you. Thank you for keeping me safe as I proceed to go around my day. I can't even count how many times somebody tried hard to kill themselves and without realizing it, tried to get me to join them. But because of this incredible belief system and something called guidance of vehicles, which all the new cars have, between the two of them, I have never been in an accident that has given me any great danger. When I used to work in Fort Lauderdale and I had to go to one part of the highway where 4 highways came in on one merge, I missed 8, 9, 10, 15 car collisions by being aware before they even happened that they were coming, and took it upon myself to go into the grass and avoid them. That's not an accident. I hate to use the word. There was no accident in that. That was intuitive, guided sense to keep me safe and keep me alive. You'll find out. Just keep practicing it. We see that we were hurt because of our ego, hardened self, which takes everything as a personal blow. But through self-insight, the hardness melts, and with it comes a beautiful quietness we were always dreaming that we wanted. Well, we got to watch the time. This is the tremendous message of alleged mysticism. You need not be hurt by anyone or anything. You need not be enslaved by anything outside you or within you. Not when you really understand. Look very closely. Now, I've been teaching this since I went with you, that this is my morning prayer, and here it's looking at me from 20 years ago. You will see no person, no circumstance can prevent you from becoming a self-understanding man or woman. Who is stopping you at this very moment? Absolutely no one. My morning prayer is simple. No person, no place, no thing shall prevent me from enjoying this magnificent new day of life. I thought it was an original. It's an original in me because I've obviously observed that and kept it through many years till I started talking about it like it was mine. Now it is mine. It's what I say every single day. It's just as simple as this. We cannot cling to negative emotions without paying the price. Negativity brings negativity. My poor son is going insane figuring I'm not getting his message. Well, Eddie, I'll explain to you. You forgot Wednesday night is class night. Here's an example here. Anger flares up whenever something disturbs a pretentious picture we have of ourselves. Anybody who sees himself as being important resents anything suggesting the opposite. But if you don't try to be important, you cannot be disturbed. If you don't want to be an engine chief, you're indifferent when someone takes away your feathers. Suppose a decent and sensible person is hypnotized by an evil magician that told him he's a fool, so he acts like one. Well, that's what happens when you falsely identify yourself. So the simple answer to the situation is now you are becoming self-aware of the fact you're no more important on this planet than anyone else, unless you accomplished something that will separate or isolate you, that will make you the kind of person people will want to be around or listen to. I'm going to end this now with the chapter at the ending. Your single greatest technique for life transformation is impartial self-observation. Please, please use it. It is a quiet watchfulness of all that happens inside and outside, without attitude or judgment toward anything that you see. Your honest insight will destroy any negative situation that is in your life. Your goal and objective is to work for more and more self-understanding. It is a power way beyond imagination. And the last comment it says is, wake up. So let's promise ourselves, beginning and effective immediately, we will wake up to all the wonderful things we have been studying and teaching for some 14 to 16 weeks now, and that all we have to do is use any one of them without judging. Will they work or won't they? We know now, by now we know they do work because we have used them. We have observed the result. It has been life-changing, and it allows us to once again do what we must do all our life, change. Bless you guys, whoever you are that's on there tonight. I trust the reading isn't disturbing, but it's solid. The in-between comments are my own as a result of the life I have been fortunate to lead since I first became aware of these wonderful teachings. And I know they work because they have worked for me. I know they can work for you. Just remember how they work. Listen, 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 observe, listen some more, and then change your thinking, change your life. Blessings on you to the next week. I may know by next week if we can begin to go back to Thursday nights. I think they're going to give me a different time schedule for my dialysis that won't interfere with that. And that'll be my great pleasure to then go and do it for you at your convenience, so it doesn't interfere with your church. Once again, blessings and thank you.